Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Unrestricted Sports. Today, we have a very interesting topic, and it's one that I think a lot of you will be interested in. And it's, does Lamar have a decision-making problem? This can include on the field, off the field, but most importantly, off the field, because over this past offseason, he's been displaying some concerning behaviors that kind of seem to lack a lot of judgment. I'm going to start right off with it because, I feel like I have a really strong case here. But Lamar definitely has a decision-making problem. He seems to be making a lot of wrong choices when it comes to what he's doing off the field. Start off at the beginning. He worked out with Antonio Brown. So Antonio Brown was going through a lot when this was going on, when he did this workout. And it really wasn't the best time to be associating with him. People were saying, hey, he needs to get away from football. He needs to get help. And here Lamar is hanging out with him. And AB isn't necessarily someone that you want around your young, impressionable quarterback. Obvious reasons. Then you combine that with the fact that they did so direct violation of any quarantine-styled safety measures at the time, because this was back when, everyone was trying to limit the curve and all that science stuff. But he literally was setting completely the wrong tone for that, because here everyone is trying to prevent the spread of this virus, and he goes out and he's playing catch with Antonio Brown, along with some other people. Not a good time. It wasn't a good time to be hanging around with AB, and it wasn't a good time in the world to be doing that. So there's number one. But that alone, that's a simple mistake, whatever. Flash forward now to a couple days ago, and he says, oh, yeah, we lost that playoff game because we didn't think the Titans were going to be any good. Okay, well, now you've just painted a massive target on your backs if you ever play the Titans in the near future, which could very well happen, because I think the Titans are going to be in the playoffs, and I don't think the Ravens are going to be terrible. So you're setting yourself up to get clocked, because you're literally saying, we thought they were no good. And I think, oh, well, that's a compliment. No, it's actually not, because you're saying that you thought they were bad. That's poster board material. Vrabel will take that and he will run that down his team's throats if they play in the playoffs, or if I can't remember. I don't think they play in the regular season, do they? I don't think they do.
I don't believe so, but I can check
All
real
right.
quick. You can keep talking and I'll let you know.
But either way, they're in the same conference. You can meet them in the playoffs. You don't give them bulletin board material. And it also
They do
speaks
play. They do play.
They do? Okay, so
in
yeah,
November.
that's you have potentially, you have one guaranteed time where you're going to play them, and I guarantee you Vrabel's going to say they thought you guys were no good. They thought they were going to steamroll you after taking 3 weeks off, because that's what all of the Ravens starters did. But going into that game, they had 3 weeks off, most of them. Now, combined on top of his comments about the Titans working out with AB during the middle of a pandemic when it wasn't safe to do so yet, and now, just a couple days ago, what do we see? We see Lamar Jackson with his millions of dollars worth of legs, running on the sand, on the beach, playing a football game.
Not to say, because I know this is going to bring your brought up, not to say that he shouldn't have fun or live a life.
Mahomes isn't allowed to play basketball.
But when you came off of an MVP season, that's not what we like to see from an MVP quarterback.
It shows a clear lack of understanding. Let the dudes who don't play professional football play football. Or you should be the all-time quarterback and you don't have to run. But the biggest part of this is not only that he was running on sand, which is known to end people's careers, all right? Not only that,
he wasn't wearing shoes. If you're wearing good shoes,
no, it doesn't matter if he's wearing shoes or not. He was wearing flip-flops, though, so that's even worse.
If you have good ankle support on beaches, sand actually helps with endurance and the sort.
Yeah, well, he didn't have good ankle support. He was wearing flip-flops, so that's besides. Yeah. But so on top of all of these things that Athletes of his caliber are told, don't do these. It's not worth playing a pickup game and ending your career when you can make millions and millions of dollars on your legs. And here he is running on sand in flip-flops. And then to top it all off, doesn't even look where he's going. He runs into the water and flies over a jet ski. Could have ended his career. Clearly has a decision-making problem. I mean, there's a reason why quarterbacks are told, hey, you can't go play pickup games of basketball. This was told to Patrick Mahomes last offseason. Everyone's like, oh, it's understandable. But there were some people who were upset. But what happened to Lamar is the exact reason why franchises will tell their quarterbacks, hey, it's in your contract. You can't do this. We don't want you getting hurt. Ran over a jet ski full speed. Now, I don't think that it hurt him severely, but it definitely didn't feel too great. And if he was a little bit older, he's done. If he got unlucky there, he's done for the season at least. You miss a year in the NFL, you never come back the same. Rarely ever. He clearly has a decision-making problem to making these bad decisions. I think this is, 3 strikes, you're out. This is his 4th strike. Umpire got a call wrong. This is his 4th strike, and he still struck out. So, for me, he's a ticking time bomb in terms of decision making. I'm sure there's probably some on-field statistics that you could look at too, like touchdowns to interception ratio. I'm not positive on what that was.
For Lamar.
And you can look at his playoff performance. Decision making there wasn't great. But really, I think he's a huge liability if the Ravens don't do some major interventions in his decision making process right now. They've let him run wild this offseason. And that's a problem. Just because you have a star player, we see what happens when you let star players run wild. We saw that with AB. And now your star player is hanging out with AB. So that's not a good thing. They are setting him up to become the next AB if they do not rein him in right now. Do you have any opinion on that?
Yeah, so in terms of, I'm just looking at a date real quick to confirm something. Yeah, okay. So in terms, I'll start off on your off-field decision making, but in terms of off-field stuff for Lamar, I think I agree with everything you say. You don't want your quarterback that you haven't paid a big contract yet to get hurt, especially when he could very very easily win your team a Super Bowl if he keeps playing at the level he's playing at. But I'm going to look more so at his mechanics and decision making in game. So it's hard to look at his stats and say that he is bad at decision making. He's got, I think, like a 42-9 touchdown to interception ratio for his entire career so far. Obviously, most of that coming in 2019. But anyway, I think a game that most people could recall is Ravens-Rams, Monday Night Football, late November. Ravens absolutely blew out the Rams 45-6. But I think a lot of people can remember that game just because Lamar Jackson looked good. But if you really look at that game, if you take a close look at it, and really focusing on Lamar Jackson, you can notice in multiple different scenarios differences in the way he plays, in the way he drops in the pocket, differences in his reads, obviously, and his throw technique even. Obviously, he probably had to adjust because of how the Rams defense had made changes. But then again, I'm going to say that he probably didn't have to make many adjustments just because the Ravens O-line, I believe, was top 3 last season.
They were pretty good.
So I don't see, even with Aaron Donald and the Rams pass rush, which I don't think is anything special anymore. I don't think Lamar really had a drastic change in how he should have needed to change his play style in that game. But you look at some of his drop techniques specifically in that game, and they varied. He would start out like he started the game, and he would use what's called a skip drop, and he started with that. Use that for a little bit, but then later in the game, you see him coming back, and then he does a 3-step drop crossover kind of a thing, and And obviously, I mean, he obviously threw touchdowns throughout the entire game. He threw at least a touchdown a quarter, um, but still, it's I don't know if this is an intentional change that he's making, or if it's just the way the ball snapped, or if he's just kind of grabbing the ball, stepping backwards, and looking for his receivers. Um, there was a specific play, I believe it was Hollywood Brown, uh, went out on a kind of like a post route. Uh, Lamar Jackson was the Ravens were on like the 10-yard line or so, and he made a very Hollywood was supposed to be on like a curl route because he stops on the curl, but Marcus Peters, because he was on the, I believe that's Marcus Peters, was on the Rams at the time. I could be mistaken, but he motions during the play Hollywood Brown to cut towards the end zone, which is a fine play, but he made it. He had a tell. He was only looking at that one target. The pass was incomplete, but I don't think in the red zone specifically that is a good sign for a quarterback. Granted, he doesn't have the greatest arm in the league, but still. And then you go a couple of his reads and decisions throughout that game. He obviously did a great job the entire game and absolutely destroyed the Rams secondary because it was a blowout. And he did an awesome job in a lot of four verts packages, especially in the red zone. He had a few touchdowns when they just were doing 5 wide kind of sets. And again, in when it comes to his reads throughout it, it's very inconsistent. He either locks on to his first read and that's the only thing he's looking for, or he goes through all of his reads and then back to his first read. And at that point, he still has enough time to throw the ball because the O-line is very elite. But I think that if this O-line gets worse, not significantly, just slightly worse to the point where you can get the occasional sack on Lamar, I think that he's going to need to have a consistent drop back, a consistent, consistent reads. He has to stop locking in on things just because he knows that they're going to be. Well, if he knows they're going to be open, I guess he can throw the ball. I guess that's not what I'm trying to say, but my point is, and I might be conveying it incorrectly, but he's very spotty on how he makes his reads in game. So,
and part of that is like his pass protection breaks down when he isn't doing his runs and he throws the ball. If he doesn't have really good pass protection on when he finally actually throws the ball, he isn't very good at throwing the ball. He doesn't have as good of mechanics as some throwing quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady or Drew Brees do. They have good mechanics in terms of their throw. Lamar has focused a lot on his running, but I think he has kind of neglected his throwing for much of his time in the NFL. And that's kind of a problem because it's not like really improve that very fast if he needs to. He needs to be working on that consistently. And the fact of the matter is that since he's run so much, he hasn't had to throw the ball nearly as much as most quarterbacks do coming into the league in the first place. So,
well, I was talking about Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm just saying that it's resulted in some decision-making errors because on the field, when he's making poor decisions, it's a result of him not having enough experience.
Yeah. About his throwing technique, I think his throwing is much more consistent than his drops in the pocket, and I think drops are super important. A few quarterbacks I know, not personally, but have watched, have big concerns with their drop techniques, and that drastically affects their game. But his throwing technique, what I've noticed is he points his foot kind of where he wants the ball to go. And he in that Rams game specifically, he threw behind several of his receivers and missed them. So like that one I was talking about, Hollywood Brown in the red zone, he's pointing behind Hollywood Brown and misses the pass. But if he were to just angle himself a little bit differently, that probably could have been an easy touchdown catch for Hollywood Brown. But I think ball placement on his throws is something he needs to work on. He's got very big receiving targets besides Hollywood Brown. in Willie Snead and Mark Andrews and Nick Boyle even. Those are, very big targets they're very rangy targets, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And Hollywood Brown is just that speed threat aspect, kind of like Tyreek Hill. So, yeah.
I mean, if I had to choose one to be more worried about, on-field stuff, I think the Ravens might get that down eventually. Off the field stuff, the Ravens have let him off too long this offseason. They've allowed the epidemic to kind of let them take a backseat and say, oh,
See,
we're going to kind of just relax.
Here's my thing, though. I think they will ask him to not put himself in danger or high risk situations.
I guarantee you, he got a call from their GM that night.
Yeah, but more specifically, like you were mentioning about Antonio Brown,
hanging out with the wrong people.
Well, yes, I personally don't think it's very good that Lamar's hanging out with Antonio Brown right now. But then you look at Hollywood Brown. Hollywood and Antonio are related. Lamar wants a good relationship with the receiver that's good, and he doesn't want to mess that up.
No. That's different. People brought that up when he worked out with him the first time. But the difference is that regardless of the timing of it, with the coronavirus and everything like that, on top of that, Antonio Brown is not the guy. Hollywood Brown does not have any of these problems that Antonio Brown has.
Well, neither does Lamar.
It's different. Lamar he's younger. He's more impressionable. He's your quarterback.
Dude,
he's the leader of your.
I'm pretty sure
the leader of your franchise.
I'm pretty sure Hollywood Brown's younger than Lamar.
Yeah, but in terms of his position that he plays, that's a lot more important. You need your quarterback to be making good decisions. He put his whole franchise in a bad spot because the next thing that they were talking about for days was, oh, they're going to sign AB. They're going to sign AB. I guarantee you that put them in a bad spot because AB's on the commissioner exempt list. He's not coming back anytime soon. Top of that, you don't need to build a relationship. If you want to build a relationship with your wide receiver, go ahead. Play catch with your wide receiver. Every quarterback was doing that. But going across the country to go meet up with AB and play with AB as well, that's the problem. You don't have to work out with your receiving target's cousin to build a good relationship with them. It just doesn't work like that. And Lamar could have just said, nah, I'm kind of busy. I can't do that. I'm down to work out with you, but I can't go across the country right now. Come up with something that makes it, not offensive if he's worried about being offensive to his teammate. But you don't. Antonio Brown was in enough of a mess already. If anything goes down with Antonio Brown, we've seen what he's done. He's attacked delivery drivers. He's had confrontations with the one mother of his children. Had the police called and got aggressive with them and all that other stuff. And hey, Lamar was at one of those events. If something happened when he was hanging out with AB, he got involved, it would be bad. And so it was just not right for him to be around him at that time. He didn't know AB before that. It's not like it's different from Tom Brady maybe reaching out and saying, hey, how you doing? Or another team that AB has worked with in the past, like the Steelers or maybe the Raiders reach out to him, the Patriots reach out to him and say, hey, we want to help you get right. We're not going to bring you back, but we want to, help you out. It's different than that. Lamar just wanted to go meet AB and play catch.
I disagree with what you're saying. I think it was a bad time for them to meet, granted, because of coronavirus, but I don't think that's a poor decision to make, is going to work with one of the best receivers in the game. Receiving-wise, talent-wise. Maybe not.
Think about
maybe
risks.
Not. Maybe not. I don't see the risk there.
If AB has a temper tantrum and he starts swinging on some dude and Lamar gets in there and tries to break it up and he accidentally hits someone or he gets hit, someone goes to jail, that's really bad for a young quarterback. AB is not the type of guy that you want your young quarterback to be around.
Lamar is not the kind of person to have Antonio Brown type of actions.
Because no one thought Antonio Brown back when he was still a Steeler. Everyone thought he was one of the nicest guys in the league. So
No,
it was only after the Vontez Burfict hit that he started acting out.
No, Antonio Brown's always been a very talkative head case.
Yeah, he was talkative, but he wasn't the AB that we know now. People just thought, oh, he's stylish. He likes to, they got like Tio vibes from him. Get
who vibes?
I think Tio.
Oh.
They didn't get this person who is consistently in legal trouble.
Here's the picture here.
Not,
you see, they certainly.
He is just not the guy that you want a young, impressionable star to be around, because as Antonio Brown known for doing, doesn't listen, because they let him do whatever he wanted for so long, and then I think probably combined with that Vontez Burfict hit, those two things combined, it made a bad thing. It made a player into a bad player just because of his off the field actions. Don't want Lamar to take some of Antonio Brown's star ideas of what it means to be a star and use that the same way. Just on his recent actions lately, where he's been talking about how he thought the Titans were trash, basically, how he thought they were just they were already into the AFC Championship game. Then you combine that with the fact that he's making all these poor choices, his body at risk. It's not something I want to see out of my quarterback.
Yeah, well, I don't think working out with AB was I don't think it was as bad as the decision as you are making it out to be. I definitely see why you think it could be a bad decision. But I don't foresee it being an issue. I think, if anything, it provided some perspective to Lamar. I think it gave Lamar something to really work for, and probably an inspiration.
Well, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, only time will tell.
All right, well, that's it for today's episode, guys. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more Unrestricted Sports content. I've been Brendan. I've joined with Nolan, and we will see you guys next time.